Thanks for joining me for today's weekly devotional. I'm Justin Allison, the discipleship pastor here at Greenwood Baptist Church. And today we're going to be looking in Esther chapter 5. Esther chapter 5 is mostly about Queen Esther and the dialogue between her and the king, Xerxes. And so let's go look at that now in Esther chapter 5. So, on the third day of the feast, Esther put on her royal robes and entered the inner court of the palace just across from the king's hall. The king was sitting on his royal throne, facing the entrance. When he saw Queen Esther standing there in the inner court, he welcomed her and held out the gold scepter to her. So Esther approached and touched the end of the scepter. So if you remember from last time, this has to do with the ceremony that Esther had to go through to be granted an audience with the king. It wasn't a certain thing. He had to extend that scepter, and he did here. So from that, she gets an opportunity to make a request of the king. And what she says is that she would like the king and this official named Haman to come to a banquet that she has prepared. And so he tries to kind of press her and say, so what is it exactly that you're after? And she is actually not really willing to share that at this point. And so she says in Esther chapter 5, verse 7, Esther says, "This is my request and deepest wish. If I have found favor with the king, and if it please the king to grant my request and do what I ask, please come with Haman tomorrow to the banquet I will prepare for you. Then I will explain what this is all about." And so basically, she's not going to give any more details here. She doesn't want to give the plot away. She wants to play her cards close to her chest, as some people would say, that kind of thing. And within this story, that leaves a space for God to act in the background. I'm not suggesting that that's how things have to work in life. I'm just saying that literally in this particular story, that's how it works. In the rest of this chapter, Haman is really excited, and he's feeling really good that he gets invited to this banquet, and he wants the honor that he feels is due to him. But he sees Mordecai, and he gets furious because Mordecai doesn't want to give him the honor that he thinks he should have. And so he continues home and brags to his wife and others about how the king had given him all this power and authority over others. And then Haman basically says in verse 12, he tells us this, "And that's not all. Queen Esther invited only me and the king himself to the banquet she prepared for us. And she has invited me to dine with her and the king again tomorrow." And then he added, "But this is all worth nothing, as long as I see Mordecai the Jew there sitting at the palace gate." And Haman's wife Zeresh and all his friends suggested, "Set up a sharpened pole that stands 75 feet tall, and in the morning ask the king to impale Mordecai on it. When this is done, you can go on your merry way to the banquet with the king." This pleased Haman, and he ordered the pole set up. And just as kind of an aside here, not all translations will have 75-foot pole. Some will say 75-foot gallows. The whole idea here is that he sets up a very tall, inconspicuous object of which to kill his enemy. And so it's this great exaggerated thing that goes along with his own opinion of himself being so great. Literally, that's how this works. And so he has set up this instrument that he is sure is going to be used on his enemy, Mordecai. But God is not silent. God is not blind to what's going on in this story. And as we will see next time, things don't work out so well for Haman. And so even though in this chapter it seems like Mordecai is on the way out and Haman is on the way up and all seems lost, the difference is Esther putting herself in a situation where God can use her, sets up this situation where God is intervening on behalf of his people. And that's something that we can take away from this particular chapter, is that It's okay for us to not share all the details of an idea sometimes. It's okay for us to not even know how things are going to play out sometimes because God is in control. I don't think, based on reading this in the next chapter, I don't think that Esther had planned out a way to control the situation so that she would actually get what she wanted, not Haman. It doesn't seem to be the case. What seems to have happened is that she was faithful. She took a step, not knowing all of the outcome, not knowing the outcome, not knowing all the details. She took a step of faith to do what God had given her to do. And she trusted that God would take care of her and her people, God's own covenant people. And even though in this story, it looks like that's not happening, we know the rest of the story. The God of the Bible is always at work on behalf of his people, and he works all things for the good of his people. And so when you're in a situation like this where you feel like, man, things are not going your way, the situation looks bleak, maybe you're behind on rent, maybe there's a problem with your job or with your family or with your health, and it seems insurmountable. God is not silent. God is not distant and far off, even though it may feel that way at the time. We serve a God who is in the details, a God who is in control of the entire world, and a God who guides all things for the good of his people, even if we don't see it at this moment. And so we need to be like Esther, do the things that we know God has given us to do, and trust God with the things that we can't control and that we don't know the outcome of. And so we don't have to connive and scheme to try to get our way. We trust the Lord, and that's a faith that can move mountains, to quote Jesus from the New Testament. So I hope that that's helpful for you as we look at Esther chapter 5 today. And I hope you'll be back next time as we look at Esther chapter 6. I would love to talk to you some more about this if you want. You can email me. My email address is jallison, that's jallison at greenwoodbc.com. And so that's how you can get me an email. If you'd like to connect with me in person, I would love to meet you sometime at the information desk over, it's right over there on Sunday mornings, in between our worship services. Until next time, I'll see you next week.